The first African slaves arrived in Virginia in 1619. These people were forcibly removed from their homeland. Slavery is made illegal in the Northwest Territory in 1787, but the United States Constitution states that Congress may not prohibit the slave trade until 1808. Eli Whitney's invention of the cotton gin in 1793 greatly increased the demand for slave labor. A federal fugitive slave law is enacted in 1793, requiring the return of slaves who have escaped and crossed state lines. Congress prohibits the importation of African slaves in 1808. In 1820, the Missouri Compromise prohibits slavery north of Missouri's southern border. Harriet Tubman escaped slavery in 1849 and goes on to become one of the most effective and celebrated leaders of the Underground Railroad. The Dred Scott case, decided in 1857, holds that Congress lacks the authority to prohibit slavery in states and that slaves are not citizens. President Abraham Lincoln issues the Emancipation Proclamation in 1863, declaring that all persons held as slaves within the Confederate States are, and henceforth shall be free. The 15th Amendment to the Constitution is ratified in 1870, granting blacks the right to vote. Cathay Williams posed as a man, William Cathay, in 1866 and became the first and only female Buffalo soldier to join the 38th Infantry. After 2 years, a doctor discovered her sexual orientation. Carter G. Woodson, an African-American historian, founded the Negro History Week in 1926. The month-long celebration began coinciding with the birth months of abolitionist Frederick Douglass and U.S. President Abraham Lincoln in February 1976. During the 1960s civil rights movement, John F. Kennedy was president. He worked to pass legislation that ensured that all Black Americans could vote and receive a good education. Segregation in schools, workplaces, restaurants, theaters, and other public places was prohibited by these laws. He also met with Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. Lee Harvey Oswald assassinated JFK during his motorcade in Dallas, Texas on November 22, 1963. Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. was a civil rights activist who led the Montgomery bus boycott for a year. Rosa Parks' refusal to give up her bus seat to a white man caused it. Since then, King has aided in the organization of a number of movements. During the March on Washington in 1963, Martin Luther King, Jr. delivered his famous "I Have a Dream" speech. The march aimed to end school segregation, equal legal protection, and non-discrimination in the workplace. That same year, he was named the Nobel Peace Prize's youngest laureate. A year later, the Civil Rights Act became law. King, Jr. was assassinated in Memphis, Tennessee on April 14, 1968. Cheyney University was the first institution of higher learning for African American students. It was founded in 1837. Lincoln University in Pennsylvania was the first accredited higher education institution. Thurgood Marshall and Spike Lee are among its notable alumni. The West African countries of Liberia and Sierra Leone were founded as ex-slave colonies. Liberia gets its name from the word liberty, and its capital, Monrovia, is named after U.S. President James Monroe, who was instrumental in relocating freed slaves. Sierra Leone's Freetown also speaks to the country's roots as a destination for emancipated slaves. Barack Obama was elected as the 44th President of the United States in 2009, making him the first African American president. President Obama was born in Indonesia and raised in Hawaii. He received degrees from Columbia University and Harvard Law School. He was elected to the Illinois State Senate in 1996, and then to the United States Senate in 2004. He won the presidency in 2012 over John McCain and Mitt Romney in 2009. Usain Bolt of Jamaica became the first man to set 3 world records in a single Olympic Games in 2008. Michael Jackson, the king of pop, holds the record for the most Grammy Awards won in a single year, with 8. With 6, Beyoncé was his female counterpart. Dr. Mae Jemison became the first African-American woman to travel to space in 1992, when she boarded the Space Shuttle Endeavour. President Lyndon B. Johnson appointed the first African-American to the United States Supreme Court in 1967. Thurgood Marshall was president from 1961 to 1991.